Look at that big bass right there.
Any experienced fisherman knows.
I have a love for the sport.
You choose your bait.
Believe we'll catch one on this today.
Based on the type of fish you want to catch.
There you go.
Much in the same way, SCAD's former head fishing coach, Isaac Payne, feels he was lured to a college that preached inclusion and respect, only to be faced with what his lawsuit calls discriminatory treatment because of his race and retaliation when he complained to his higher-ups.
I feel like they betrayed me, because remember, I'm not just an employee there. I'm an alumni.
As an undergrad, Payne founded the college's first fishing club, and in 2015, after he graduated, he was offered a full-time job as head coach for both the men and women's fishing teams.
You need our service to your institution, but you won't treat us the same.
According to Payne's federal lawsuit, most of the abuse came from student athletes who, quote, frequently referred to Mr. Payne as an N-word. But he says it wasn't just racial epithets.
It was the idea of, hey, we're gonna take this coach's boat, drive it up a sandbar, and tear it to shreds. Like, how would you feel if you're traveling to a competition with these students and their parents, with an athletics director that knows about it, with a compliance and HR department that knows about it, and all you tell that coach is, just keep coaching.
Payne reported these incidents, among others, to SCAD leadership, but his lawsuit says they took no action to address the hostile work environment, and the abuse continued.
It was just swept under the rug when I brought it to their attention.
Eventually, he was fired. But SCAD said in their motion to dismiss, that decision had nothing to do with his race, and everything to do with his unacceptable conduct as a leader, adding SCAD received a number of disturbing complaints about him, including creating and fostering a culture of bullying, and failing to enforce the school's drug and alcohol policy, end quote.
This is a pattern for them.
And Payne is not the only ex-employee speaking out.
They're all about their image, but the image is flawed. That's why he's continuing this.
Chantel Colebrook says that Payne's allegations bear striking similarities to her own.
And I don't want to be used, I don't want my color to be used to bring in people who look like me.
Hello, students.
Colebrook taught English as a second language at SCAD's Language Studio in 2021. And as an immigrant herself, she found common ground with her international students.
SCAD was my dream place to work, which is why this is so painful.
Colebrook was also fired. And just last week, she filed this discrimination charge with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which details several examples in which she claims she was treated, quote, differently than white faculty, from not receiving the same support or training to getting criticized for being emotional, even assigned a workload that was more difficult.
They would have these meetings and just rail on me. Well, I don't know where you were educated. I don't know where you got your degree.
Ultimately, her discrimination charge says, quote, SCAD fired me because I'm Black, and in retaliation for complaining about discriminatory treatment, end quote. Talking about it, still difficult.
It was the hardest thing for me to pretend that I was stupid.
And CBS 46 Investigates found another discrimination claim from 2019, when the college's director of giving was fired because SCAD said he, quote, did not meet fundraising performance goals. That former employee said in a court filing, quote, I believe there is an undercurrent of racial bias among SCAD leadership that leads them to hold Black faculty and staff to a higher standard than our white counterparts, end quote. In all three cases, the former employees signed pre-dispute arbitration clauses when they took their jobs, something all new SCAD employees are required to do, which means if any issues or problems arise, they're agreeing to settle them through a legal process called arbitration. Rather than being in a courtroom, judged by a jury of their peers, it all happens behind closed doors.
SCAD has created its own rules.
Payne and Colebrook's attorney, Dan Werner, calls it an attempt to sweep discrimination under the rug and argues the clause is not enforceable.
It forces the employee into a proceeding that's heavily slanted in favor of the employer.
According to data analyzed by the American Arbitration Association, workers were awarded money in just 1.6% of employment arbitration cases in 2020. Still, SCAD defends its policies, with a spokesperson telling me, quote, the use of alternative dispute resolution methods is quite common, adding that all SCAD human resource practices are fair, just, and professional. As for Payne, he's taking his case a step further, fighting the college's arbitration policy and prior dismissals by appealing to a higher court.
We took it to the court system, and now we're out in the open. I'm not afraid of SCAD.
And in the meantime, he says he's trying to heal.
Sometimes you don't say anything, you just kind of take it in.
Still doing what he loves to do.
Call it healing or just relaxing or escaping the normal busy grind of life.
Now, SCAD went on to tell me that they do not comment on pending litigation, except to say that they are confident that the higher court will rule in their favor. To read the rest of what they had to say, you can head to our website. Of course, that's CBS46.com. Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill just last month that would prohibit companies from enforcing private arbitration. Now the fate of that bill, which is called the FAIR Act, is in the Senate's hands. Of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Rachel Polanski, CBS 46 News.